Hey everybody, it's Coach Dan Ryan, PMP exam trainer, and I am very happy to be joined today by Meredith French. Meredith French, I should say, PMP, PMI ACP, an agile project executive with experience in business development, capture, IT, data centers, construction, and workforce engagement. Thank you so much, Meredith, for taking the time today.
Good morning, Coach Dan.
Great. Yeah, good morning to you. And thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Again, my name is Dan Ryan. I'm a PMP exam coach and trainer, and I've had a wonderful opportunity to have Meredith as my student. And Meredith not only did the PMP training with me, but she also went through my Agile certified practitioner training. And she got both credentials successfully. Again, congratulations, Meredith.
Thank you.
And so we're going to have a nice little conversation today about, what was her journey. We'll talk about the comparison between the credentials, maybe some lessons learned or perspectives that she can bring to the table. I also have some input there because I also have both the PMP and the ACP credential, obviously, including the training for both within my programs. All right. So, Meredith, are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do this. All right. So, Meredith, before we begin, why don't you give us an introduction into a little bit about your journey in terms of what brought Meredith on the PMI credential hunt in general, right? So what was the trigger to decide for you to do this? I'm going to go for these certifications, and I'm sort of trying to figure out, what was the impetus to bring you there, and how long did you study altogether by the time you achieved both credentials?
Okay. So I don't know if my case is typical. I actually started out studying total quality management a very long time ago. I won't date myself. And then I worked for Sprint telecommunications in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And Agile, we didn't call it Agile at that time, but we really were following a lot of Agile principles in terms of software development and in working in the data center, all the platforms and programs that we were running at that time. I actually started my PMI training back then in 1998, 1999, when I was in kindergarten. And I intended to pursue my PMP at that time. And I would just say life, family, different career tracks, whatever you want to call it. I worked as a network technical engineer and then went into vendor management and program management and spent quite a few years at Sprint working with fantastic people. So I took a lot of classes in PMI and I intended to get my certification, but I never did. And I really was taking more of the traditional track of taking college classes and working towards getting my degree. And again, life, kids.
We both went to George Mason.
Yes, I went to George Mason. Started out at Northern Virginia Community College and then transferred to George.
Nova. Yeah, I lived down in Fairfax for a little while. I went to George Mason before transferring back up to Stony Brook.
Yeah, it's a wonderful school. And I ended up joining the business program, getting admitted into the business program. And I really, really enjoyed my time there. But I ended up.
So what was what brought you back? What brought you back?
Well, I ended up not finishing my undergraduate degree. And so again, typical or atypical of a PMP candidate, I am a senior at George Mason University, but I haven't attended classes there in quite some time. And I really, in talking to people in the industry and looking at making a career change, kind of an industry change in the last year or two, I really found that the PMP was a very prized credential. And in talking to some of my coaches and mentors and potential employers, they really indicated that the PMP was more meaningful and the ACP for that point was more meaningful of a credential than me finishing my undergraduate degree.
Short term.
Short term, yes.
Okay. Because I'm a PMP trainer, but I'll go so far. You cannot equate a PMI certification with an entire degree from an institution like George Mason, for example.
Totally agree.
Okay.
But I think
but yes. So what you're saying is in the short term, you know, especially since you didn't have that degree, these other certifications really helped level the playing field, and it was real tangible for prospective employers and current employers, and a great achievement for you in their eyes.
Absolutely. And yeah. I would, again, I do feel there's a fair number of folks like myself that got involved in project management or IT or the different industries that use it, which are quite a lot, that perhaps have a lot of college education, which I do, and were able to apply that college education in different positions that they held and have a lot of experience, but they don't have a credential.
Well, you know, that's one thing to consider if you're listening to this interview and you're hearing Meredith describe that she didn't have the 4-year degree, but she had extensive experience. And you know, Meredith, when you apply for the exam, you have to document extra years of experience if you don't have the global 4-year equivalent, which for you was no problem. But if you were maybe 10 years earlier in your career, and maybe it would have been more challenging to document 7,500 hours of experience, right?
Yes.
So, okay, great. All right. So, but I'm still dying to know here, how do we get, you know, connect the dots, bring me back to, okay, now I'm here. And now, even though these years have gone past, there's been a prior try, it's time to re-engage. When was that?
Yeah. So the only thing I will add to that is I really feel that having experience in the industry, obviously you have to have project management experience to get your PMP or your Agile certificate.
Right.
But honestly, I have a few kids in college, and I recommended to them, I would say no matter what stage you're in your career, the PMP or the ACP is definitely a credential worth pursuing, because it's such a great combination of the practical experience, the practical application of the experience, as well as whatever education you may have.
100% agree. We are going to come to more of that in a second. Don't steal my thunder. All right. So again, tell me, what brought, connect the dots, bring me back here. What brought you back into it? What made it happen? And when was it?
So getting my PMP and my Agile has definitely been, getting my PMP has been on my list for 20 years, clearly. The Agile, as I said, I was doing Agile a long time ago, but I really didn't have that credential on my radar so much. When I started my PMP journey, which is probably about 5 to 6 months ago,
okay.
It was looking for
that in earnest.
Yes, in earnest, right? Starting
with routines, with habits, right? With schedules.
Yes, which clearly
so that's the part that's the part I really want to focus on.
Yes.
All right.
So
what made you, what was it that went on 5 or 6 months ago? What was it that was, okay, now is the time?
I'm definitely like a research and business analysis person. So I always want to understand, I always want to do a lot of research before I undertake something. So in doing that research, I decided initially to follow the traditional track of laying out a couple $1,000s for a more traditional university-based course. And I probably didn't do enough homework, honestly, and really look at people who were passing and looking for that, you know, online. And a lot of us obviously search online. I had talked to a fair number of people that were either already certified or pursuing their PMP.
And but, someone told you go to university of such and such.
Yes.
And you did it and it didn't work out and you spent a ton of money.
Yes. Honestly, yes.
All right. So let's move past that big mistake and let's get to the part where you found my program. How did you find my program? Were you online? Did someone tell you about it? Or?
So, well, I like the college university class that I started with had great coursework.
Yeah.
As far as the way they laid out the information was great.
Okay.
But honestly, I did not end up finding that to be helpful in terms of actually studying for and passing my PMP. Looking back.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. So that wasn't a good effective synthesis for you. It didn't click.
Yes. And I've talked to a lot of folks who think that it makes sense to just do an online course where there's no actual interaction between them and the instructor or the class.
Asynchronous, right?
With their busy schedule, it's just going to be easier to do it that way. I'm a very disciplined person, but I found it was very difficult after those first initial few weeks to stay focused.
With no accountability, with zero accountability.
No accountability,
Right.
no real engagement, no relationship really with the other students in my class or the instructor. So I started looking for something more. I said, I need something else. This is not going to do it for me. I need to be able to show up. I need a time and a place that I have to show up.
Tell me where to be.
It's just how I work. And I thought that was going to be part of the class, and I initially took, and it was not. So I looked for something else, but I also didn't have a big budget. So I really needed value for my money.
So you needed something engaging, you needed something affordable, but you wanted it also to be achievable and fit your learning style. So you found me maybe through a Google search, or you typed coach somewhere or something, or did you look on LinkedIn? How did you find me?
Yes, I literally did a Google search and looked at the reviews online, looked at some of the tutorials that you had out there, little brief videos. And I'd worked in New York before, and I said, this guy is, he's very engaging. I am not going to fall asleep. I will not be bored during these classes.
My Brooklyn accent probably kept you wide awake.
Yes.
And all right.
The other class was more boring.
Was boring. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope I'm not for everyone, but I'm hopeful for people like you. I'm okay.
Yes.
All right. So you passed, okay, both exams, PMP and ACP. You came through my program. You found it effective. You liked the live coaching and all of that. The simulators, right? The accountability. Let's talk about after the exam. Let's talk about PMP versus ACP. All right. Now, I'm going to change topics. Now, your story is very interesting. Okay. Because you're somebody who has both these credentials like I do. So you're in a unique position to share some insights. Now, you had a very interesting order in which you took the two exam credentials. And it actually, from what I understand, was part of a strategy of yours, whether intentional or accidental. Tell us, what order did you do it in? And what was your analysis of how that, felt and worked out with the strategy and everything?
So, it was either a strategy or an effective rolling of the dice, experimental, we'll call it, which, as we know, is a big thing with lean. I started out taking your Agile ACP. Part of it, again, at that point, I'd already laid out a lot of money for the class I took before, and the Agile was a cheaper version. I was very interested in getting that credential, and I said, well, this will let me try out Coach Dan and see if he's as awesome as I expect him to be. And if I'm, successful. And I said, it seems that PMP is at least, and I didn't really know at that time, was it 50% Agile? Was it 10% Agile? I knew it was a blend of project management and Agile. So I decided to pursue the ACP certification first.
All right, so you came to my ACP coaching course, which you're right, it's a lighter course than the PMP undertaking. And so you came in and said, I'll sample it out. You came to the coaching program and you found that summarized version of the course that I give in 7 hours effective enough to cover all the concepts on the exam?
Yes. I found out again later with both Agile and PMP, even though I had the PMBOK and even though I had the Agile handbook,
practice guide.
Those are both helpful resources, but they are definitely not the only resource that you need.
Or really, they're not exam prep.
Really not at all. And that was a surprise to me to find that out. And when I looked in the PMI handbooks, they actually indicated that they are pulling from, with Agile, like 14 different publications.
Right.
and they don't even necessarily list what they are. So I'm like, well, I really need to work with somebody who has done this before.
Hold it all together.
Knows what do I need to know? What do I need to study? Where do I need to brush up my skills? Because I'd been working as, a Scrum Master. I've been working in an agile software development environment in a project management role, but a lot of organizations do things very differently, and they're not always exactly following the framework that.
You're right. The team composition, the way they do it can really vary from company to company.
Very much.
So, all right. And then the simulators, you felt that those agile simulators were prepared you for the exam?
Absolutely. I use the simulator relentlessly, and it really, really helped me. I did a lot of studying. I'm probably one of those people that tends to over prepare a little.
Overkill it. You overkill it. Good.
I think you learned that.
Yeah.
But I found that taking just.
Oh yeah. Well, I helped you fill out your applications.
You did.
All right. Now, so the ACP now, with the PMP exam now having agile stuff on it, tell me about how this helped doing it in this order.
So I found though the ACP classes themselves, it's a shorter content. They were really robust. There was a lot of information there, and I ended up reviewing the classes and the tapes more than once. And but it was really, really great preparation, and it really showed me what I already knew and what I didn't know, or where I was rusty and where I needed to brush up.
In terms of agile content.
Yes. And agile is a very robust exam. It definitely, you need to study, and you absolutely need to take a prep course, in my opinion.
It's not a joke. It's not something you just do a few notes and you just go in and wing it. I get you. It's a standalone, it's a full standalone certification.
Yes.
But with the PMP exam now being a good portion of agile content, did you feel that doing the ACP exam first actually helped prepare you for the agile portion of the PMP exam?
Tremendously. Tremendously.
And would you recommend to other people who are going to say, if you said to yourself, I'm definitely going to do both, at some time I'm going to do PMP and I'm going to do ACP. So you know what? Meredith is actually saying do ACP first, because now PMP is so heavy on the agile that it'll be a stepping stone for you.
Yes. I was really pleasantly surprised. I went to the ACP not having done a certification exam in a good long while, and it was very situational, which surprised me. And I found myself, choosing between good, better, and best answers, which makes the test somewhat challenging. And again, I feel that good prep work and talking through the questions, talking through potential exam questions, and learning how to take those questions apart. Mm-hmm. And really look for what are they really looking for. That was incredibly helpful to me.
That's what we do in the nightly coaching sessions. When I go through the questions, we break them down and we ask the questions, what are we trying to solve here?
Yes.
What domain or area of specialty do we think that this question's referring to? And, we try to eliminate the superfluous answers and zero in. And I know the degree of difficulty for the ACP, maybe it's not quite as difficult as the same level on the PMP. What do you think?
It's a little shorter test.
Right.
I think that's helpful. Honestly, for me, it was a fantastic preparation for the PMP. That was a very wonderful surprise. I ended up, because I probably over-prepared a bit for the agile, it really gave me a great taste of what the PMP would be like. I'd say that, the exams are very similar.
Yeah, just in terms of testing experience, going through this process, sitting down. Did you do it remotely or in person?
I did both in person in testing centers.
Okay. And so you went into the exam center, you saw what that process was like. They're going to check you with a wand and stuff, right?
Right. And I followed your advice. Like you said, hey, go there the day before and make sure you know where you're going.
Oh, you did reconnaissance ahead of time. Okay, you really are overkilling it.
Yes.
All right.
So all of
So,
that was, I mean, and I think that's what I love about your program too, is it's very real life for real people, for working adults, working parents, people that are on the go that are most likely doing a full-time job or more. I've myself worked for multiple jobs, multiple clients the whole time. I had a huge project in the middle of my, exam, from when I started, which was, 5-6 months ago.
mm,
I had a huge project in the middle that was
wow.
really intense. So that's
Wow.
life. That's kind of how it happens.
Yeah, I know. I saw your camera come on in the car a couple times, and it was just like your ear on the camera. No, I'm just kidding. No, you run around a lot. All right,
Yeah.
but so congratulations on your multitasking abilities, by the
Yeah.
way. All right, so you did it. You went to the night classes, you did the simulators. Did you go to any of my boot camps?
I did. I did.
What did you think of the weekend crash course for the PMP exam?
Again, I found that to be incredibly helpful.
Now, but it was also a little bit like drinking from the fire hose, right?
It is.
But you have the recordings, you can go back and review them again.
Yeah, I loved, I loved the whole way it's set up. The timing of the course being in the evenings is a good time.
Mhm.
Well,
There's the two options. There's the weekends
right.
and the weeknights.
Right. And I feel like having both options and then going through the intensive, the weekend boot camp, whether you did that in the beginning or the end, I think depends on the person and how they study best and how their personal life is on their weekends. Right. But for me, again, it gives you that great perspective of seeing it all as one whole unit.
It's the classic it's the classic refresher.
Yes.
Or primer. You in the beginning you call it a primer, right? Because you're starting the program, which is about 5 weeks in length. And then at the end, if you did it again, you would call it a refresher, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did it multiple times. So
oh
again,
my gosh, you're a glutton for punishment.
I am. So again, I maybe was a little over prepared for the agile, but I also found it more challenging because I had not been in that testing environment before.
Right.
Then I found that really my PMP preparation, though I expected it to probably be more difficult, I used the time between and I only did a week. So I did my agile on a Saturday morning. I did my PMP the following Friday, which,
oh my goodness,
again, it worked for me. But I was able to just focus on the traditional project management in that week in between because I had studied so much agile for the ACP.
That is so interesting. So you actually reduced your PMP study, right? Yes. Because of that previous experience with the ACP exam. All right. But now that you have both these credentials, what is sort of your plan for applying? Like, what's your, okay, I've got this PMP, which shows that I'm a seasoned project manager. I've got this agile credential, which shows I'm down in the trenches, maybe with daily stand-ups and development teams and Kanban or Lean or XP or TQM, total quality management, right? What when you're thinking about moving forward, how are you going to apply these credentials in your career and leverage them in the different ways that are possible?
So I love business. I've always loved business since I was, knee-high to a grasshopper. I really have a passion for working with startup companies, and I've worked with several startups, done my own startup, and really, really enjoyed that. I've also honestly had the opportunity to work for a lot of large corporations, starting with Sprint, and then having a lot of large corporations as clients, and getting to see it from both perspectives. How startups use agile principles and lean methodologies, as well as looking at how large corporations use those same methodologies, but they kind of do it in a different way. And I just found over the years that I really have a passion for applying, both looking at where traditional project management is really helpful, and it is. And then there is a lot of uncertainty. I mean, in almost every industry, and just in practical terms, being a project manager, there's always uncertainty. There's always things you don't expect. And what I did like about the PMP and the Agile both is that they really put you in a lot of situational questions where, number one, there isn't necessarily only one right answer. But also you're missing a little context, and you have to, just like when you're a project manager, you have to think on your feet and say, you know what, I'm not going to have all the information that I'd love to have to make a decision. I'm just going to have to do the best I can.
And and what you're speaking of is reflective of the new structures of these methodologies that we see, where we're no longer telling people when to execute or when to plan, but we're giving them domains. Like, for example, PMBOK 7 has an area that they call uncertainty. You just brought up uncertainty, right? Uncertainty could be around the schedule or scope, right? So that's also risk. Risk is uncertainty. So both Agile and Waterfall respond to and manage change and uncertainty and risk. They do it in very different ways. And you, being leveraged perfectly with both these credentials, might be ideally placed to help a company that's transitioning from a predictive to a agile organization, for example, right? They might be hitting detailed, intensive, bottleneck type situations, and Meredith would be on hand as the servant leader, the Scrum Master, to evangelize the framework of Scrum and to mentor and coach the various customers and users and stakeholders on the proponents of Scrum, right?
Ideal world.
And with your quality background, you could be doing lean, right? Continuous improvement, removing waste from all of the processes. So how about this? How about I put your link in the comment section below for people to connect with you on LinkedIn in case they're interested in learning more about what you were talking about.
I would just close with saying that for me, what's driven me throughout my career is that I love people, and I really love helping people. And I really have a heart to help. And I think that if you have that personality where you really like to help people and you are used to multitasking and wearing different hats, but you generally have a heart to help people and become a servant leader, if becoming a servant leader is really something you aspire to do and to be, I really would encourage you to check out Agile or PMP or both, and see if it's something that resonates with you.
That's awesome. So both of them are valid certifications in their own right. For you, you did ACP, then PMP, but you could easily do it the other way. Many people feel like PMP is a foundational concept that you would only add on ACP later if you needed to. So there's different schools of thought. But, thank you, Meredith, for today going into, the value of both sides and sharing your personal journey. It was quite interesting, actually, to listen to. And I really appreciate it. And of course, for the trifecta on this, come see me for your professional development units and your PDUs.
Of course. And I am going to have to give the shameless plug of just saying I don't feel that I would have passed my ACP or my PMP without Coach Dan's assistance and coaching program. And he really partners with his students. And he really has a heart to help people and to help students to prepare and to gain the knowledge so that they can pass successfully. And that's across the board, not just the technical knowledge, but also like the real life situational, how do you mentally and emotionally prepare for these exams? So thank you so much. Couldn't have done it without you. Very grateful for the program and your staff. You have a great staff, great support staff, and they've been really, really lovely to work with as well. So
well, thank you, Meredith. Those were very kind and very humbling words. I appreciate it, and thank you for being with me today.
Of course.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. This has been a great interview with Meredith, and we have learned a lot about the ACP and the PMP exam and all of the value of achieving those credentials. All right. So be sure to stay in touch. All right. Go ahead and feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, of course, and, hit the bell and click subscribe and do all those things that make sure that you get notified when I release new great videos like this one. All right. Thanks again, Meredith. Appreciate it. And
anyone, feel free to reach out to me if you just want to have a just down-to-earth conversation about PMP or ACP. If you're trying to consider between either one or taking both, feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Perfect. I'll put the links down below. Click on the links down below. And Meredith, have a great day. Bye now.
You too. Take care.